Hello, I'm Esther Gidhu. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris congratulate Donald Trump on his victory as the country prepares for a transfer of power. In a vibrant Kenyan community center, Americans watched the U.S. election results with keen interest. And European leaders congratulate Donald Trump on his election victory despite their nervousness and apprehension. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. The United States is preparing for a smooth transfer of power, with President Joe Biden congratulating President-elect Donald Trump on his victory and Vice President Kamala Harris conceding defeat. White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara reports.
The moment Vice President Kamala Harris conceded her defeat to President-elect Donald Trump came Wednesday afternoon at Howard University, her alma mater and election watch party venue. Unlike Trump, Harris had committed weeks ago to respect the election result. She said it's a fundamental principle of American democracy.
We owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
Earlier, Harris called to congratulate Trump and discuss the importance of a peaceful transfer of power and being a president for all Americans, her campaign said. The Trump campaign said the president-elect acknowledged Harris for her strength, professionalism, and tenacity throughout the campaign, and both leaders agreed on the importance of unifying the country. The White House said President Joe Biden called both candidates and will address the nation Thursday to discuss the election results and the transition. In her remarks, Harris sought to comfort her staff and supporters.
Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service.
Harris' speech marked an extraordinary moment reminiscent of 2016, when another female candidate, Hillary Clinton, conceded defeat to Trump. 2,000 Harris supporters had stayed past midnight on election night Tuesday. The mood grew more somber as more and more states were called for Trump. As they watched Harris deliver her concession speech Wednesday, many were emotional.
I woke up crying. I left the rally last night crying. Now I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling restored. There's a long road ahead, but I feel like it's not the end of the road.
She gave us a little bit of hope to continue to work, on yourself, on your community, and to focus. And I'm actually happy the fact that she ended on that note.
The people have spoken. We need to respect that. This is democracy, and we have to keep fighting.
Trump won 292 electoral college votes to Harris 224. He declared victory in the early hours of Wednesday, thanking his supporters.
They came from all corners, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment.
Harris' concession speech marked the end of a whirlwind campaign that began when Biden withdrew from the race in June. From Howard University, Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
American citizens living in Kenya gathered to watch the U.S. election results. Juma Majanga attended the watch party and filed this report
from Nairobi.
A mix of American experts and their local Kenyan friends gathered Wednesday morning in Nairobi to watch the high-stakes election results on TV. Their gathering was organized by Democrats Abroad Kenya, the official country committee for U.S. Democrats living in Kenya. Robin Emerson, an American expatriate in Nairobi and chairperson of Democrats Abroad Kenya, which organized the election results watch party, said they invited all American citizens to the event regardless of political party affiliation.
American voters have come to a central place so that we can be together and watch the election results come in, and so that we can really celebrate the right to vote, that we have done our part, we've participated in the democratic process, and watching how the different states are coming in and the results that are there.
As the votes came trickling in, pointing to a win by former President Donald Trump, the initial excitement of many dissipated. Trump's supporters, like Maximilian Deti, however, celebrated his victory.
It reminds me of the great American leaders that shaped the country to where it is right now. I believe Africa stands to benefit a lot from this, because Trump, being that revolutionary leader, is going to implement reforms that are going to impact Africa positively, specifically Kenya having a lot of ties with the U.S.
Bentley Wilson, an independent voter from the western state of Utah, expressed disappointment with the poll results.
I was really hopeful that we would vote the first U.S. woman and woman of color president this year. I was really hopeful for that.
Nairobi-based American researcher Tom Wolfe thinks President-elect Trump's policy on Africa will remain the same as it was during his previous term.
Well, based at least on his first term, Trump did not pay very much attention to Africa, but in terms of commercial economic competition and encouragement for developing further connections between American and Kenyan businesses, I would expect that to continue.
For Lisa Maroney, a native of Detroit, Michigan, the election results watch party provided a special opportunity to interact with fellow citizens.
You know, I'm so grateful for the community in Kenya. I think it's really special. I've lived in other countries and never had such an opportunity to spend time with other Americans and friends. There's some allies from other countries here who are interested in what's happening in the country, and I'm just very grateful to have somewhere to share that experience with.
The Democrats Abroad Kenya chapter estimates that approximately 30,000 American expatriates reside in the country and remain engaged on electoral process regardless of the results. Emerson says the engagement of Kenya's expatriates on the elections and the democratic process will continue.
Because citizenship, democracy is not a part-time exercise. It's one that is full-time. We have to continue to stay engaged no matter the outcome.
Juma Majanga, VOA News, Nairobi.
For more on Donald Trump's U.S. presidential election victory, I'm joined live from Mar-a-Lago, Florida by Joseph Slavik, a Republican strategic analyst and partner at Scribe Strategies and Advisors. Mr. Slavik, welcome to Africa 54. Let's hit the road here. Opinion polls repeatedly indicated that Kamala Harris had a slight lead over Trump. How did Trump pull this off with such huge numbers?
Esther, good to see you again. Thank you for all the good work you're doing. Yeah, I think I was fairly confident that he was going to win the election, but I have to tell you, I did not think that the win was going to be of this magnitude. 312 electoral votes, 73 million votes for the popular vote, the winning of the Senate and the House. I think what happened was that President Trump had a very good ground game. I think they kept the message very simple in terms of, it's the economy, stupid. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? So I think that simple message, and I think there was a lot of frustration, not to mention, President Biden deciding to step down probably also impacted, the Democratic Party's ground game. So I think he had momentum going into the election, and I think that momentum really helped him push the ball over the line.
Joe, it's now official, of course, he's president-elect, but tell us what's in the works now to assemble his cabinet picks?
Well, look, the fact that the Republicans have won the Senate pretty much gives President Trump a pretty, say, carte blanche to pick whom he would like. In the previous time when he was the 45th president, he had some difficulties with regard to getting his cabinet nominations. So I think he'll be able to fast track who he wants in the Secretary of State position, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Energy. So I think they'll be able to fast track those appointments, and I think the president will be able to hit the ground running. Not to mention he has 4 years of experience, which he did not have the last time he served.
Mm-hmm. And what are his aides likely to consider as preparations to inaugurate him on January 20th get underway?
Wow, that's a good one. I think right now probably the team is being assembled. I mean, he's already got his inner team that's been working with him, but I think you will see in the very short coming few weeks who is going to be appointed to these positions. I think that you will almost see kind of a shadow government like they do in Britain right away. So I think the president or President-elect Trump will start to announce their appointments, and they'll start organizing. And of course, in the Senate, the Republicans will have to pick new leadership. I think Senator McConnell is stepping aside from the leadership, but I think you'll see the president quickly assembling his cabinet, and I think you'll see them hitting the ground running on the 20th of January, which was not the case when he got elected the first time.
Joseph, many thanks for what you have shared with us on Africa 54. Joseph Slavik is a Republican strategic analyst and partner at Scribe Strategies and Advisors. America's allies in Europe are congratulating Donald Trump on his victory in Tuesday's presidential election. This comes amid widespread concern over what his second term may mean for transatlantic relations. Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
Donald Trump made a historic comeback in Tuesday's U.S. presidential election.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
U.S. allies in Europe are pondering what the future president will do with that mandate. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer got off to a difficult start after the Trump campaign criticised his Labour Party officials for offering advice to Trump's rival, Kamala Harris, on the campaign trail. Starmer was quick to send his congratulations.
We live in probably more volatile world than we've lived in for many decades. It is absolutely crucial that we have a strong relationship, that strong special relationship.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said things would be very different with Trump in the White House, but pledged to remain a reliable transatlantic partner.
This also applies with regard to the threat that all NATO allies believe Russia poses to security in the Euro-Atlantic area.
Trump has criticized U.S. support for Ukraine as it fights Russia's invasion, and there are fears he could end military and financial aid for Kyiv. In his first term, Donald Trump threatened to pull the United States out of NATO, claiming allies were taking advantage of the US. But in a statement Wednesday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that Trump had, quote, turned the tide on European defense spending, improved transatlantic burden sharing, and strengthened alliance capabilities. Meanwhile, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban made no secret of his preference for a Trump victory. When it came, he said, quote, for the world, it means the hope of peace. French President Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump have had a volatile relationship, but Macron said Wednesday he was ready to work together, quote, with your convictions and mine, with respect and ambition, for more peace and prosperity. In reality, European allies are preparing for a stormy ride, says foreign policy analyst Garrett Martin of American University.
The 4 years where Trump was in office were rather tumultuous. There were moments of constant bickering, a lot of disunity, a lack of cohesion. So I think that was already at a time which was less arguably dangerous than it is now. We're now in the midst of a major war in Europe that's been going on for 2.5 years.
Meanwhile, next week's crucial COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan is likely to be overshadowed by Trump's victory. The former president pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord in 2017, claiming it was unfair to the United States. His successor, Joe Biden, rejoined on his first day in office. But there are fears Trump will once again quit the agreement, even as scientists warn of catastrophic global warming without immediate action. Henry Ridgwell, VOA News.
President-elect Donald Trump won Georgia's 16 electoral votes. State legislators will now go through the formal process of certifying the election before sending the official results to Washington, D.C. ahead of Inauguration Day. VOA's Anthony Labruto is live outside of the Georgia Capitol with more insight into this process. Anthony, walk us through what happens during this election certification process at State House.
Absolutely, Esther. So across Georgia, votes were counted in local precincts, local election boards, but then now all the results are tabulated. They've been sent to the Secretary of State's office, but now legislators will convene here at the Georgia State Capitol to vote on the certification of the election results. So this is really just kind of a formal process, or a little bit of an informal process, I should say, a formality of Georgia election officials coming together and certifying the election and showcasing to their citizens that they have confidence in the election, and that they will then send all of those results, like you mentioned, to Washington, D.C. ahead of January 6th and January 20th, which will be President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration day.
Anthony, I understand there have been some sort of controversy leading up to the certification from the local election officials. What more do you know?
Absolutely. About a month before, election officials, local election officials, and a lot of these suburban swing counties around the Atlanta metropolitan area had raised the question of whether or not they could call investigations into a potential election interference, election security issues. The Georgia Supreme Court actually overruled the local election officials and said that they have to certify the election results regardless of what happens, regardless of who wins, and regardless of what numbers are telling them. Unfortunately, for them, the local election official, there were definitely some security issues, but now the state will be able to come in and say, if there are any problems, we will be the ones to make those decisions for you on behalf of you. But as of right now, there really aren't any problems to report, at least on the local level. And I actually had the chance to look into some on election night, and there really weren't any problems. So this will go to the State House for the certification process. Really no problem within the next 10 days.
Anthony, but when do Georgians expect, this election to be certified? Because a lot of people are waiting to know where are we with this?
So Georgian election officials have a legal deadline, actually, of 12 days after the election has concluded. So certainly this gives enough time for candidates to request recounts. The state can come in if there are any election issues, if there are any mail-in ballots that might be late. But for the most part, the election is set. The election is all set heading into that election certification process. So we should expect within the next 10 days now, after 2 days after the election, to see legislators come here to the Georgia State Capitol, vote, and then send them straight on to Washington, D.C.
Anthony, many thanks for your great reporting throughout this electioneering period. VOA's Anthony Labruto, live for us from Atlanta, Georgia. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, South Africans react to Donald Trump's winning the U.S. presidential election. We'll be right back.
100 years after women won the right to vote in America, it seems to be an even longer journey for a female candidate to see electoral parity towards the office of the presidency against men. Why has this been so historically in the United States of America? On the next episode of Our Voices, we discuss this and more as we analyze the results of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus, Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In other news, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu says that Army Chief Lieutenant General Taoreed Labaja, 56, has died. Tinubu announced Labaja's passing on the social media platform X and expressed condolences to his family and Nigeria's armed forces. Authorities say Labaja died in Lagos Tuesday night after a brief illness. The World Health Organization and other health entities say nearly 900,000 vaccine doses have been allocated for 9 countries across Africa that have been hit the hardest by the current Mpox surge. The newly allocated vaccines will go to the Central African Republic, Ivory Coast, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Liberia, Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, and Uganda, according to the WHO. And Donald Trump's victory over Democratic candidate Vice President Kamala Harris has dominated the news across Africa. Several African presidents congratulated Trump on his win, including Kenyan President William Ruto, Nigerian leader Bola Tinubu, and South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, who says he is looking forward to continuing a mutually beneficial partnership between the two countries. Following the election of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States, reporter Tuso Kumalo spoke to people on the streets of Johannesburg to get their reaction.
South Africans have reacted with mixed feelings to the election results in the United States of America. Those in love with President Donald Trump's economic policies are saying his presidency is going to bring an economic boom to the world, something that will benefit Africa as well.
I'm grateful that Donald Trump has won this election because he stands for what we in South Africa stand for in terms of immigration, stricter borders, border control. What he can do for South Africa, well, I don't expect anything much because none of the American president, even Barack Obama, have done nothing for South Africa or Africa. So in terms of that, there isn't much we are expecting.
We hope that as president, he do something about the dollar and the rand situation, because here in South Africa we are feeling it whenever things are changing on that side. Really, it is something that should be done, because here in South Africa, I'm not ashamed to say it, poverty is rife. So if it's going to change that, then maybe we'll have something to celebrate about or be happy about.
In short, I wanted to say to him, forget about politicizing each and everything which you are not supposed even to politicize it. In South Africa, things are tough. Food, it's difficult to get food. Education system is not good. So they are there to support us as America. So if you can only do that part for us, I believe everything will went well.
As the world prepares for the incoming new administration in America, others say only time will tell if the Americans will live up to their expectations. Reporting for VOA in Johannesburg, this is Tuso Kumalo.
Reporter Tuso Kumalo speaking to South African citizens on the streets of Johannesburg. The race for the control of the House is still uncertain, but Republicans are optimistic about their new Senate majority and Donald Trump's presidency. For more on the House of Representatives, VOA's Paul Ndiho is standing by live at the Capitol Hill. Paul, what's the status of the House races and why is it that some are still undecided?
Esther, like you said, the race is still going on. No party has ultimately won the U.S. Congress, but we are looking forward to at least the Republicans taking the lead. As we speak, they are in good standing because they were able to at least gain 4 more votes. All they need is a couple more votes left because they've controlled the House over the last couple years. But Democrats are also holding their fort. They are fighting till the last minute. They hope to gain enough votes to secure the speakership of the Congress.
Paul, what's the number here? How many members of Congress are we talking about here, and how many come from each state?
So there are 535 members of Congress, 100 senators, meaning that each state has 2 senators. Now, 435 representatives are from across the country. The numbers vary in terms of populations. For example, if you come from a smaller state like Delaware or Vermont, they have 1 representative. And the other bigger states, like California has 53, Texas, Florida, New York, all those have a significant number of representatives. But it all comes down, the total number comes down to 435 representatives in the House.
Paul, very quickly, how long do these members serve for, and do they have term limits?
That's the million-dollar question, Esther. There are no term limits when it comes to how long you can run for Senate or Congress. However, every 2 years, the congressmen go back for re-election, so they're up for re-election, as opposed to the Senate, where it's every 6 years. And it's staggered across every even year. So to make sure that at any one given time, there is at least 1/3 of the Senate that is not up for re-election.
Anything else that we're expecting soon from the House, very quickly?
Right now, everybody is really looking forward to who controls the House because at the end of the day, it's going to give, if Republicans take the House, it means they have ultimate power. They're going to have no opposition whatsoever. So Republicans are equally excited, just as Democrats are looking forward maybe to take the mantle from Speaker Mike Johnson.
Paul, many thanks for your reporting. VOA's Paul Ndiho reporting live from Capitol Hill. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.